Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're doing some serious heavy lifting on ancient infrastructure, really cutting through the noise.
Yeah, we're focusing on something really specific.
Exactly. It's this tiny but actually fiercely disputed question. What exact path did Paul and Barnabas take when they left the coast at Perga and traveled inland to Pisidian Antioch? This is during that famous first missionary journey.
It sounds simple, doesn't it? Just draw a line on a map. But the sources really make it tricky. The main one, Acts 13.14, well, it's incredibly vague about this specific part of the trip.
How vague are we talking?
It just says they went inland. The Greek is dialthontes. It means something like passing through or traveled inland. But crucially, it doesn't say how or where. There's no objects specified. And that lack of detail, that's our starting point.
Right. And we need to keep in mind, this wasn't just, a leisurely walk. This journey went straight across the Pisidian region, really rugged, mountainous country, often described as a sort of triangle, with Pisidian Antioch right at the top.
A challenging landscape, definitely.
So our mission, essentially, is to look at the three main routes scholars have proposed, the eastern, central, and western ones. We'll dig into the literary evidence, the topography, archaeology, epigraphy, especially that amazing first-century Roman road system.
Exactly. We have to put ourselves in their sandals, really. Weighing distance, how tough the terrain was, safety, what roads were even available.
Okay, let's dive in. Maybe start with the one that looks simplest on paper, the central route. This is the one you often see in Bible atlases, right? Usually because it's the most direct line.
That's the one. It's our speed benchmark, if you like. It heads pretty much straight north from Perga, follows the valley of the Cestrus River, the Oxu today. Shortest distance by far.
Yeah.
About 114 miles.
114 miles. Okay, but shortest often means difficult.
Oh, absolutely. Short, yes, but exceptionally rugged. It involves a serious climb over the Taurus Mountains. There's a section near Shandor, historically called the King's Road, the Kral Yolu, that goes up through these really steep valleys. Sources tell us this part was notoriously difficult.
And isn't there some amazing physical evidence right there, that canyon inscription?
Yes. The Azilia Canyon, the canyon with writing. It's a national park now. And carved right onto the rock face, there's this traveler's poem. It's thought to be by the philosopher Epictetus.
Wow. So, like, advice for travelers etched into the rock.
Exactly. It's this incredible little snapshot from history, right there on the path Paul might have taken. It makes the whole journey feel very real, very physical.
It really does. And further along this central route, they'd eventually reach Adada.
Yes, Adada, a key Pisidian city perched way up high, very strategic. The climb up to Ada is actually famous. It's one of the best preserved bits of Roman road, paved road in Turkey today. It's quite a dizzying ascent.
An unavoidable stop, basically.
That's what scholars call it, an etape incontournable. You just couldn't bypass it on this route.
And there's that interesting local connection Ramsay found, too.
Right. William Ramsay noted back in the 19th century, the locals called the place Karabavlo. Bavlo likely deriving from Paul. It suggests a really long-lasting tradition, maybe almost 2,000 years, linking Paul to that specific place, perhaps as a patron saint.
So the central route, short, definitely challenging, but seems to have strong local traditions tied to it, which, begs the question, if it's the shortest, why look anywhere else? Why consider routes that are significantly longer?
Good question. And that leads us straight to option number 2, the western route. And this one is anything but short. It uses the famous Via Sebaste.
Via Sebaste. Okay, that sounds important. Roman road.
Oh, absolutely. This wasn't just some track. This was the premier Roman road in the area, commissioned around 6 BCE by Emperor Augustus himself. We're talking a wide, properly paved highway, engineered for carts, wagons, military units, the whole deal, built specifically to connect the Roman colonies Augustus established there.
Okay, but how much longer are we talking?
Significantly longer. This route clocks in at about 156 miles. Compare that to the 114 of the central route.
Wow, that's nearly a third longer. That seems counterintuitive if you're trying to get somewhere, especially on missionary work. Why would anyone choose that detour? There must have been a compelling reason.
That's the crux of it. And the compelling reason, according to scholars like Stephen Mitchell anyway, might not have been about the road itself, but about politics, or rather political advice.
Politics. How so?
Well, remember who Paul had just met on Cyprus? Sergius Paulus, the Roman proconsul. Mitchell's idea is that Sergius Paulus, being a high-ranking Roman official, would have strongly advised, maybe even insisted, that Paul use the official imperial highway, the Via Sebaste.
Okay. So it was the official route, the safest, maybe. The one the Romans preferred people use, even if it's way longer.
Precisely. Think about it from a Roman perspective. And from a traveler's perspective in the first century, Safety often beats speed, especially if you might be carrying funds or just wanted an easier journey. This route was engineered to deliberately go around the most dangerous territory, the heartland of some quite hostile tribes, by heading northwest initially before swinging back east towards Antioch.
And the physical evidence for this road is solid.
Rock solid, literally. It goes through the climax pass of the Dushime Bozu, which is this huge natural cut through the mountains. And what's really amazing is the modern highway takes a different route, so the ancient Roman road through the pass is incredibly well preserved.
You can still see it.
Oh, yes. And get this, right at the summit, there's still a Roman milestone, in situ in its original spot. It marks 179 Roman miles from Pisidian Antioch, which was the Caput Viae, the head of this road system.
Incredible. A Roman milestone still there.
Yeah, and this road, the Via Sebaste, it linked up all the key Roman colonial centers like Comama, Apollonia. These were important places. This was the Roman superhighway of its day.
Okay, so two really strong contenders then. The central route, 114 miles, shorter, more rutted, strong local traditions. And the western route, 156 miles, longer, but paved, Roman-built, safer, possibly officially recommended. Before we try and figure this out, what about the third option, the eastern route? Does that have any legs?
The eastern route, sometimes called the Iconium connector, it's almost as long as the western one, actually, around 149 miles. It heads southeast from Perga initially, crosses a couple of rivers, the Cestrus and the Eurymedon near Aspendus, then climbs up past places like Etena through the Cassic-Bilii pass towards Lake Corrales.
But most experts don't think Paul took this way to Antioch, right? Why not?
Yeah, it's generally dismissed for this specific journey. Two main reasons, really. First, logistics. The Eurymedon River, which this route crosses near Aspendus, was actually navigable back then. At least partly. So, if Paul intended to go this way, the logical thing would have been to sail up the Eurymedon from the coast, or from Perga, directly to Aspendus. It would have saved a lot of walking. The fact that Acts says they traveled inland from Perga suggests they weren't aiming for the Eurymedon route initially.
Right, that makes sense. And the second reason?
The second issue is its destination. The natural endpoint of this eastern route, geographically speaking, is really Iconium, not Pisidian Antioch. To get to Antioch using this route, you'd have to take a pretty awkward detour off the main path. It just doesn't flow logically towards Antioch compared to the other two.
Okay, so for the Perga to Antioch leg, we could probably set the eastern route aside.
I think that's fair. It doesn't really offer any advantage for this particular trip.
Which brings us back to the main puzzle. Central route. Short and tough. Western route. Long and safe. We have good arguments for both. Tradition and speed versus infrastructure and safety. Maybe they didn't just use one.
Exactly. Maybe we're asking the wrong question if we assume it has to be a single route for the whole journey. This leads to what many scholars now think is the most likely scenario, the dual route hypothesis.
Dual route, meaning one way going, another way coming back.
Precisely. An asymmetrical journey. The thinking goes like this. For the first part, heading inbound to Pisidian Antioch, the trip described in Acts 13.14. Well, safety and maybe that official advice were probably key.
So the western route for the trip to Antioch.
That seems the most logical choice, the Via Sebaste. Considering the possible influence of Sergius Paulus, the need for a reliable road to the colonial capital, wanting to avoid the riskiest areas, it just fits better for the start of the mission in a new, potentially hostile region.
Okay, the safe imperial highway on the way in. What about the return trip then, when they eventually head back towards Perga?
Now this is where the text gets interesting again. Acts 14.24 describes the return journey. And here the Greek is slightly different, but crucially different. It says they passed through Pisidia, Deilthantes, Teen Pisidian.
Hang on, what's the difference? You said the first phrase was just traveled inland.
Yes, the first phrase Deilthantes in 13.14 was vague, no specific region mentioned. But in 14.24, it explicitly adds the object, Tan Pisidian, meaning Pisidia itself. They pass through the region of Pisidia.
Okay, so why does that matter?
Because geographically, only one of our routes truly goes through the heart of the Pisidian region. The western route skirts around the edge, but the central route, that 114-mile path, it goes directly through the core Pisidian mountain territory.
So the language used for the return journey actually points specifically to the geography of the central route.
That's the argument, and it's quite compelling. That linguistic detail seems to align perfectly with the central route's path.
And thinking about the context, that actually makes a lot of sense too, doesn't it? By the time they're heading back, they've been traveling for what, maybe 2 years? They've founded churches, faced opposition. They'd probably be pretty keen to get back to their home base in Antioch on the Orontes.
Absolutely. Urgency likely became a much bigger factor. After a long, arduous mission, the desire to report back quickly would have been strong. Suddenly, that shorter 114-mile route, even though it was tougher and maybe riskier, would look very, very appealing.
They might have felt more confident navigating the area by then, too,
Yeah,
willing to take the risk for the speed.
quite possibly. The whole calculation changes.
They do.
Speed over comfort, directness over safety.
That's fascinating. So Paul, being pragmatic, used the best tool for the job at the time. The peak of Roman engineering, the Via Sebaste, when safety and reliability were paramount heading in, and then the rugged, direct track, the central route, when speed was the priority heading home.
It shows incredible adaptability, doesn't it? It reminds us that choosing a route back then wasn't just following a line on a map. It involved complex decisions based on politics, purpose, timing, maybe even just how tired they were.
So we went looking for the path, but the real insight is that the journey was likely dynamic. Paul probably used both the safest Roman road and the shortest mountain track, depending on the circumstances.
I think that's the most satisfying explanation, fitting both the text and the landscape.
It gives you a real appreciation for the challenges they faced. And, it connects back to Paul's own writings, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. Think about 2 Corinthians chapter 11, verse 26. Paul lists his hardships. Dangers from rivers, dangers from robbers, dangers in the wilderness. That was the reality of any travel back then. Whether you were on the paved Via Sebaste or the rough King's Road, danger from the elements, from bandits, was a constant companion. It's something to keep in mind whenever you look at those ancient maps. Every line represents a journey fraught with risk.